last summer. Joining us now is the top Democrat on that committee, Congressman Adam Schiff. Congressman, thank you for joining us. I do want to talk to you about the wildfires that are raging in your state as well here. We want to get the word out about the need there and the danger. But let's talk about this hearing. Why did you guys let him assert a privilege that, by most legal reckonings, he does not have?
Well, it's not a question of us allowing him to assert the privilege. We asked the questions. We sought to get the answers. He invoked the privilege, and we made it clear, at least on our side of the aisle, that we did not think this was a recognizable privilege. He then, in his counsel, said they would go back and discuss it further with their lawyers, with the president's lawyers, and get back to us. The question comes, if they get back to us and say, no, we're not going to answer those questions, then we'll be required to subpoena Donald Trump Jr. back before the committee. Unfortunately, I think the committee has set a precedent that if witnesses make any flimsy claim of privilege, that the House or the Senate will back away. We have seen, for example, the Attorney General, not just in the House but in the Senate too, make an assertion that they were not going to answer questions about conversations, not because they were invoking privilege in those cases, but because they thought that the president ultimately might invoke privilege, sort of a privilege to potentially invoke privilege.
Preserving privilege.
There's no such thing.
Right.
But as long as the Senate and the House fail to act and insist, then we create this new opportunity to evade oversight. And I think that's dangerous in our investigation. I think it's more dangerous in terms of the entire precedent.
Well, and then you have what else went on, according to sources, in this Q&A yesterday, which was him saying he doesn't remember things. So how much obfuscating do you think you got versus clarity that you got?
Well, I don't want to characterize the testimony in that way. What I tried to do is basically not go into the content of what people have said, but rather where they refuse to answer questions, not let them hide behind the closed nature of the proceeding and then go public and say, well, we fully cooperated when they haven't. But I'll leave that for others when we do ultimately publish the transcript, and I hope that at the conclusion of the investigation we'll publish all these transcripts so the American people can see exactly what these witnesses had to say and whether it supports the conclusions that we reach. But personally, I'd rather not as the witnesses' testimony.
All right. Well, how about this then? Did you learn more about why Donald Trump Jr. provided different reckonings of what that meeting was about, and whether or not his father, the President of the United States, knew about the meeting, and if so, when? And what, if anything, happened after that meeting in furtherance of the cooperation that was present at the meeting?
We certainly learned more than we knew going into the hearing, so we did gather additional facts. And what you hope in these interviews is not necessarily that a witness is going to say, okay, I did it, or agree to the overall conclusion, did you collude with the Russians? You seldom get a straight answer if you ask the summary questions. But if you ask the very specific questions, it leads you to other witnesses, other documents in which you can prove or disprove what the witnesses have said. So yes, I think we gained some important insights that we can now follow up if we have the support of the majority to find out, okay, was this witness telling us the truth? And if not, does it lead us to other evidence that will shed more light on the facts? So I think it was very productive.
Chris Stewart says he doesn't think there's anything there, that there was a long questioning period, that Donald Jr. gave as much as he thought he could give, and that based on what he knows of the circumstances and facts of the situation, there's just nothing there to follow up on in terms of collusion. He kept saying that there is nothing over that next ridge.
Well, I think Mr. Stewart has expressed that opinion from the very beginning, even before we had these witnesses come in. But if you look at what has now been produced in the public eye, I think you can see a lot of evidence that's filling in the pictures of the puzzle. I'll just give you a quick snapshot. In late April, you have Papadopoulos now admitting that the Russians informed him through intermediaries, informed the campaign that they had the stolen Hillary Clinton emails. Now, this was at such an early date that not even the Clinton campaign was aware the Russians had these emails. Weeks later, you have Don Jr. and these other top campaign people taking a meeting with Russians who represent themselves as representing the government in its effort to help Donald Trump, and promising dirt on Hillary Clinton, dirt which the campaign was then on notice that they really had. They go into the meeting, the dirt that they get, they express great disappointment. They want more, and within days, Julian Assange announces he's obtained the emails, and the Russians start publishing them through DC Leaks and Guccifer 2. That's a pretty damning set of circumstances. Now, there are some pieces that we continue to look for. Was it communicated to the campaign that the way the Russians were going to help is not by delivering the emails directly to the campaign, which could incriminate both the Russians and the campaign, but by publishing them independently? That's how they were going to make good on their offer of help and the campaign's acceptance of help. We're still looking at that particular issue, but there's a lot in the public domain. You really have to be trying to look away to say there's no evidence of collusion here. And you have to, I think, accept at face value the self-serving statements of the administration, and as an investigator, that's just not what we do.
Well, I smell what you're cooking, but as they say, you're going to need some more ingredients to make soup. We'll see what you find and follow it every step of the way. The fires that are burning in your state are no joke. There was 0% containment for a long time. We know that a lot of resources are being thrown at it. We're showing pictures now of the situation there. How urgent is it? How worried are you that it's going to spread to even more populated communities?
It's very urgent, and with these winds, there's just no containing a fire as long as those winds persist. So I'm deeply concerned about it. I've been talking to my constituents. Many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands have been evacuated from their homes, and they're, as you can imagine, watching very nervously to find out whether their entire world ends up in flames. So hard to overstate the danger here. I don't think we'll be out of the woods until those winds come down, but the firefighters are doing an absolutely heroic job.
I mean, it is just horrible. Literally looks like hellfire that they're dealing with out there.
It certainly does.
Congressman,